welcome to the stage, Mr. Matt Ryan. Let's go.
We really need microphones. I mean, like, you know, it's
I
a
know,
small
right?
room.
Yeah, we could just chill. I think
I did
just
theater for 20 years, so I could probably. No, we didn't like. My voice is time joking.
No, I know that's the thing. Like you've got the hot drink and everything. I feel like if I was
Yeah.
like trying to project like this, I'm gonna be wrecked.
Okay,
And, like,
okay.
I mean, you can. It'd be impressive feat.
No. Save the voice.
Absolutely, my friend. Well, how has your weekend been so far? I want to check in with you.
You know, as you guys know, I was like last minute to this one, and I've done a bunch of GalaxyCons, and I've always loved them, and I was like, yeah, I'll come along. Why not? It's my first time in Oklahoma City. I did not know what to expect at all, so I was like Googling Oklahoma. The funny thing is like some people were telling us today that we're expecting like big storms tonight.
Yes, they've been saying the same thing. Yeah.
And I told my dad, when I told my dad I was going to Oklahoma, my dad loves storms.
Oh.
And then I told him, he was like, oh, I hope there's a tornado. I was like, I hope there's not a tornado, Dad. I remember when I was younger, my dad used to, like, every time there was a storm, I grew up in Wales, which is very wet and wild and windy, and my dad used to open up the back door and call me and my brother out in the middle of the night, wake us up, come boys, there's a storm outside. And we used to, like, watch the storms. And his favorite movie is the movie Twister.
I was gonna say it's probably Twister. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, and he was literally like, I hope there's a tornado. And I was like, I hope there's not a tornado.
Because, like, how do you deal with that, especially coming from out of town? Like,
that's
what
I've been
do you
asking
do?
all you guys questions. I'd be like, what do you do? You know,
Yeah.
do you get the bathtub and like try and jump in the bathtub or something?
God.
You know? Well, that's what my dad would do. Be like, yes, son, go out into the wild.
Yeah, see, that's wild, because I'm from Florida, so I'm used to, like, the hurricane thing. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's very different from, like, the aggression of a pinpoint tornado. Yeah, like,
Exactly,
I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
How many times have you experienced that? Like, how
Never.
close have you been? Never. Okay,
Never.
great. You
I'm
never
from
got
Wales,
to get
so
close.
they say in Wales that the rain goes sideways.
Oh.
Because it's just dew. You know, there's a great poet called Dylan Thomas, and he writes, one of his lines is like, from where you are, you can hear the dew falling. And it's like, they say the rain goes sideways, because it's just generally wet.
Yeah,
All the time.
generally.
And there's like storms, but there's not tornadoes and hurricanes. Like, come on.
Yeah.
You know? It's also like the first time I went to like a country like Australia or Thailand, and they're like, you know, watch out for the bugs, they can kill you. I'm like, I'm from Wales. You know? the biggest thing that can sting you is a bee. You know?
Yeah.
So there's always those little adaptations you have to make. And,
Yeah, culture shock, for
yeah,
real.
Yeah.
With, like, of nature. That's
Yeah,
something I don't
I
even
love
think
it,
about. Okay, so
What do we do?
I don't know. That's the thing. I'm from Florida, and then I
Oh,
live in Dallas
so
now.
what
So
do
I'm
we
like the
do?
worst person to ask, I think.
Do we just go down to the basement and
Come
hope
up,
for the best?
come up to the mic. Come up to the mic. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, this guys is no longer Q&A. This is actually a tornado safety class.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. For people who just arrive to Oklahoma, you run or you hide. For those of us living here for a decade plus, you go outside and watch.
Oh.
Are we right?
But that's not
Right?
advice.
No, that's what
But can
we
I
do.
join you guys? That sounds more fun.
The sky is circling above, and we're like, ooh, isn't that pretty?
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh.
Thanks.
Well, yes, thank you. Do you have tornado advice?
Yes, I kind of. I'm from Irving, Texas.
Okay, amazing.
So, well, for me, whenever I was in the 8th grade, we actually had a tornado warning while I was at school.
Oh.
And we had to go to one of our science rooms and hunker down. While I think my dad was at home, he actually walked outside to look at the clouds. And I'm just like,
I think your dads would be friends.
yeah.
Think you
Like, just know, if you come to Texas and you see people doing that those are actual Texans. They don't care what's going on.
Foreigners, don't try this at home.
But for us, I would say go to a windowless,
A windowless
yes, room, and just hunker down.
What if
Try
you're
to
on the 17th floor of a hotel? You should stay there or go down.
go down?
But then here's my logic, right? It's like, what if the tornado rips up the hotel and the whole hotel falls down on you? And then somebody said to me earlier on, like, they'll dig you out. It's like,
That's why you have something covering you, so at least you're protecting your body. Because, let's say, like you said, it goes down. At least if you're protecting mostly your head and going and curling around your body, you're protecting most vital organs and stuff, mostly your brain. Because technically, if your brain is the most vital part of your body because it's circulating all your thoughts, what you're vying to do. So that's my advice because I've been through
Protect
it.
the brain.
Yeah. Good
It's
to
so
think.
funny. Can you imagine there was a tornado now and like, you know, like 3 days from now I'm being like dragged out from the bottom of
Oh my
a
God.
hotel and I'm like, all the people at the con, they saved me, man.
Yeah, exactly.
They told me
I
what to
kept
do.
my hat on, protected my brain.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we've one time had hail, and my mom and I, we were just coming back from her mother's house, my grandma's house, and I've actually have video proof of my mom and I staying on the car while it's hailing.
Oh man, that's scary.
Hail's supposed to be like
Yes.
big
Yeah.
hail, not
And
like.
both my brother and my dad actually came out with hard hats.
Oh, really?
Came up
See?
to us
Protect the
and
hat.
gave them to us while we're trying to get back inside because we're like wearing shorts and t-shirts like what I'm wearing right now because we didn't know this was happening. And I'm just sitting here like.
Just taking a video. Oh my
And you can
gosh.
hear my
I'm-
mom in the background talking to my grandmother, and she's telling her everything, and I'm just sitting here like.
I'm gonna add a hard hat component to this hat.
Yeah,
it already
yeah.
has foil in it, just in case someone's
Oh.
trying to zap.
Look at oh my god. No, no.
We're going somewhere else
conducive.
now.
I mean,
like.
I probably have a hard head already because,
Yeah.
because I did get hit in the head with a hammer once.
Oh,
You have a very
okay.
interesting life, my
Yeah.
friend. What is your name?
My name's Brianna.
Give it up for Brianna, everybody.
yeah.
Thank you so much for our tornado
Yeah,
safety, my
thank
friend.
you.
Thank
I
you,
mean,
thank
I
you.
actually had photo ops with you, and you were technically my second to first photo ops.
Oh, wow.
I've
Okay.
never done it before, so my smell and stuff were actual genuine. I'm like,
Oh, that's
Give it
nice.
up one more time for our friend Brianna, everybody. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
love. Thank you. Okay, so let's shift from tornadoes to you,
Okay.
my friend, if we
Okay.
can, if we may. I want to know. You obviously do a billion different kinds of performance, whether it be on screen, whether it be voiceover. When did each thing, like stage, what came first, and when in your life did each different kind of acting come into play for you?
It was stage. When I was a kid, I was growing up, and my mom was a dance teacher. It's funny, on my mother's side, my mom was a dance teacher. My grandmother was, she actually left Wales when she was 13 years old on the back of a milk float and hitched a ride to London and became a burlesque dancer and used to lie on beds of nails and swallow swords and breathe fire and stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then my mum was a dance teacher too on that side. On my dad's side, my great-grandfather was a drummer. He was in the war, and then my grandfather was a drummer, and then my dad, you know, I call them like 9 to 5 kind of like artists, you know, because they were never able to kind of make money out of what they were doing. A lot of it was hobbies. Apart from my grandmother, she was just like bonkers, laying on beds of nails and stuff. And my mum, you know, she had a dance school, and she was a wonderful choreographer. You know, my granddad was a drummer, a jazz drummer, and then my grandmother kind of stopped him from drumming. My dad became a musician, but he was a postman, my dad.
Oh, okay.
And then he ended up becoming a musician professionally and got a record deal with like Warner Brothers in Scandinavia.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. So I kind of like brought up with these two artistic parents.
Yeah.
But in a place where it was not cool to be artistic. You know, and it's funny because my parents managed to make a living out of what they did, but you know, it was different to what all the other kids in school did. You know, there was the manual labor, bricklayers, electricians, plumbers, and all those things. You know,
Right.
which are wonderful things. But and I always wanted to like be an actor, but you couldn't really do that. You know, like
Yeah.
it was frowned upon. You know, so.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, before I went to secondary school, I did some like I used to dance a little bit with my mom, and then I played Gavroche in the musical Les
Oh
Mis.
yes. Oh my God. Cute.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, and I loved it. And then when I went to secondary school, the peer pressure was too much. You know, people say like, you know, don't give in to that peer. I give in. And it's okay, you know, like that's okay too, you know, like I went through a whole period where I think that if I hadn't given into it, I went through a whole period in school where the school was a very rough school. We used to bunk off school and get up to no good. And I think that if I had actually continued to do what I love to do, then I wouldn't be who I am today.
Of course. Of course.
You know, and the fact that my parents kind of like let me just go and be a kid and run around the village green and do all the stupid things that the kids were doing at that time. And eventually I came back to it. And then I went to college, and my parents actually tricked me because by that time I was like, I don't want to be an actor anymore. I hate this. And then they were like, well, you like music? Why don't you be a sound engineer? And so I went to college wanting to be a sound engineer, but the problem was, because I hadn't been to school, I didn't have any qualifications to be able to take a course just to be a sound engineer. So I had to do the basic course, and that was including acting and singing and dancing. So they kind of were like, whoop. And I think it was really smart of them, because then I met my best friend and colleague Joseph Morgan, who is, you guys will know, who plays Klaus on the originals and was on the Vampire Diaries, and another one of our good friends. And that was the first time that acting was cool.
Yeah, okay.
And I was like, oh, man. And then from there, I started to grow and love it and lean into it, and ended up going to drama school for 3 years. So it was 6 years of college, you know, after no education from the age of kind of like 12 to 16. And then there was like 6 years of college. And then that was it, really. And then I left and did 3 years at the Royal Shakespeare Company.
Oh my gosh, wow,
Yeah.
okay.
The funny thing was, is like when I was in school, I hated Shakespeare. I was like, I don't want to do this crap, you know, like. And then when I went to drama school, on the first day, they all sat us around in a circle and they said, what's your ideal job? And lots of people, you know, from England were like, I'd like to work at the Royal Shakespeare Company. And I was like, I don't want to do that. That's like, I want to do like gritty, real drama that shows where I'm from, you know, like about real people, you know, and my first job at a drama school was a lead role at the Royal Shakespeare Company.
Yeah, oh my God, can you imagine?
But by then I'd like learned and opened my mind and read a lot and fell in love with it, so yeah.
Yeah, and I think Shakespeare is a great way to like you can do a gritty showing where you're from with the words
That's
of
it.
Shakespeare, yeah?
Yeah.
What were the shows that you did?
Well, the funny thing is, I spent 3 years at the Royal Shakespeare Company and didn't do one Shakespeare play. I've done many since.
Amazing,
but,
amazing.
So we did like we did one season. It was called the Spanish Golden Age, which was all of Shakespeare's contemporaries. So they were playwrights like Tiso de Molina, Lope de Vega, Caldron, all of these Spanish playwrights that were writing at the same time as Shakespeare.
Oh, okay.
So the verse was very different, but then they were translated into English.
Got it.
And then we took them to Spain to do in the Teatro Español in the middle of Madrid,
Oh my
which was
God.
just like the biggest, wildest trip in the world.
Yeah, holy moly.
And the play that I did the lead role in was a play by a guy who was a monk. His name was Tiso de Molina. And he wrote this play, and he actually got cast out from the church, and like they admonished him for it, because it was about Amnon, this character, this guy who's a historical figure, and he was the son of David, right? David and Goliath. David, who's the
Giant Slayer?
Yeah, exactly.
I got you.
And one day, Amnon was like this introvert, almost like a Hamlet character. And one day, he hated war, but he was the heir to the throne. And David used to play his harp to Saul, who was like the history of all that kind of biblical stuff. And one day, David had a harem full of women, and Amnon was this introvert, and one day, he snuck into his father's harem where all of his father's women were, and he fell in love with the voice. And then it made him crazy, because after this guy who was an introvert, and he was the prince and the heir to the throne, became enthralled with his voice. And then he found out that the voice was his sister's voice.
Oh no.
But so this was a dark play about incest, about, I remember one line that says like attracts like, you know, if she is me, then I am her. And it was like really dark and twisted. And so we would have audiences leave.
Oh yeah.
But the priests would stay. And they would come up to me at the end of the show in tears, going like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it was a really like stripped down, bare play. There was no costumes. The lights were up in the audience. It wasn't like a theatrical, wonderful performance like you would see at the Royal Shakespeare Company. It was this guy, a wonderful director, who was trying to literally strip everything externally from the story and just tell the journey of these characters, and it was a baptism of fire, because we had terrible reviews.
Oh gosh.
And then and I had to go out every night and carry this whole thing for like 8 months.
Yeah.
And it taught me how to it taught me like fortitude. Taught me.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and that was my first kind of like foray into British theatre after being in drama school for a while. And then I did a bunch of other plays which were nicer and, costumes, and the audience liked it more. But there was this one play that was just like my point of entry, and I was like, people leave drama school, they go and do a play, and then it's like successful, and then their career takes, oh, that's not me. That's not me. They hate it. But then a lot of people loved it. And the one thing I learned from that experience was it's better for people to either love it and hate it rather than just like, it was okay.
Right, absolutely.
There's something about that then, okay, you're doing something. You're doing something.
There's some sort of passion being met with this,
Yeah. So anyway. It's a long answer to your question.
No, please, I love it. We're here to listen to you. When did on-camera stuff start coming into play for you? And how did you...
Actually, it was before that. So when I was in drama school, I got the job, I did a movie called Layer Cake with Daniel Craig. And Matthew Vaughn, who did all the great movies with Taron Egerton, what are they called? The Gentleman, and not The Gentleman, that's Guy Ritchie. What is his movies, Matthew Vaughn? He's done a bunch of movies anyway, and he's great. So he was like Guy Ritchie's producer when Guy Ritchie started out, and then he had written this movie, but Guy Ritchie couldn't direct it, so he decided to direct it himself. And Daniel Craig was the lead. It's called The Layer Cake. And it was my first job, and I was in drama school, and I got the audition, and I got the job, and it was to play a junkie. And I was like, great, okay. So I did that job, but the drama school wouldn't release me to go and do it because we were doing like our last play, which was our showcase to all the agents, and they were like, "You're not allowed to leave," and I'd already got an agent.
Oh my God!
So I can remember my agent turning around, going like, "Well, darling, why the hell? What the purpose of you being in drama school is to do the job, and this is a real job, you know." So I ended up like saying, "Well, I'm either going to leave to do this job, or I will go do the job and I'll stay." And they said, "Go to the job and you'll stay." And that was my first movie that I ever did. And it was a great experience because we did a rehearsal, and you don't really get that much with film or television, especially now. And Daniel Craig was in the room, and this was before he was James Bond, and working the scene with me and the other actor. And it was only a small scene, but for me it was like, wow.
It's like a masterclass, yeah, absolutely.
And it was really cool the way that he was with us as really young actors, and Matthew Vaughn was awesome. And then I did another movie straight out of that called Red Light Runners. And nobody has ever seen this movie.
I bet there's somebody out there. Someone's going to come to your table someday and be like, I know.
They're not allowed. They're not allowed. Because the producers were crooks and they got locked up.
Oh, just okay,
and
never mind.
The insurance company took all the footage. Oh. So it was with Harvey Keitel, Michael Madsen, Cillian Murphy was in it when he was younger as well. And I was playing like Harvey Keitel's eyes and ears on the streets of London. So he was like this character who was playing, he was like a gangster disguised as a priest in London. And I was like a homeless guy who was like his eyes and ears on the street. And it was a really cool movie. And we shot like 2/3 of the movie, and I got a call from my agent saying they shut it down, and like the producers were arrested or something, and the insurance company took the footage. So I was like, can I get my scenes with Harvey Keitel
for
and
my
Michael
reel,
Madsen,
please?
Because exactly, and they wouldn't release it.
Oh man!
And it was from then that when I went into the theater, and then I spent like three years in theater. Yeah.
Right. I totally misinterpreted that. I thought you were just like, oh, nobody's seen it because it's so indie and different.
No,
they literally removed it from the cultural
yeah.
zeitgeist. That's crazy. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite Shakespeare play that you've done? Like actually.
Well, you've got to say Hamlet, right?
Yeah.
Well, I've done 2 Shakespeare plays that I love the most, and that was Hamlet. I did them both with Jude Law, actually.
Oh my God.
And he was Hamlet, and I was his Horatio. And then he did Henry V, and I was Llewellyn, the Welsh captain. And I love both of those experiences. But I'd worked with the director before. He was the artistic director of the Donmar Warehouse in London, Michael Grandage, who's a wonderful director. And those 2 jobs were just like absolutely wonderful. And I learned so much of Jude, you know. I didn't really know much about him apart from seeing him on the screen of him being this gorgeous movie star, you know. But then, you know, like learning who he was as a human being and as an actor, it just like really taught me a lot. And another person I worked with who I really learned a lot of was Forrest Whitaker when I did Criminal Minds. And I think it's always great when you work with these older actors to like, you know, glean off them, you know, the way that they are, how they treat people on set. And not that I would ever be horrible to anyone, but you know, that just the way they are and how they approach their work and their discipline and their commitment and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, inevitably, like, because suggesting that you would even be bad, even just like learning how to interact with certain people when it's your first time on like a set or something like that. The different jobs that all these you didn't even realize it existed. It's like, okay, well, how do you what does this person need? Like, you know, watching
Exactly,
it
and
is the
seeing
best way to do
someone
it.
doing that, and it's great for a young actor to have those experiences with someone who's in that, you know, who's done that, and you say, oh wow, like, you know, that's how you do it, you know, and his approach and attitude. I think,
exactly.
Is the biggest thing I learned from both of those people. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, can you explain the world of Constantine to me as if I were a kindergartner, so I can get on board with it? Because I know. I need, but like really breaking it down. We're getting to the again, as if I walked in, I got my backpack on, my lunch bag, I've sat down, I'm here for class.
Start with episode 1, and not episode 1. Start with issue 1. No, actually, start with, I don't know what issue it is, but it's 1985 in Swamp Thing when Constantine appears. Constantine is a mage.
Okay.
A mage is someone who has mastered the art of the arcane, who knows everything about magic.
Yes.
And oh god, you know when you used to do interviews on stuff, you know, you'd have like your sound.
Right, your little bit, right, for
like,
sure.
But like it's you guys who know Constantine, like it's he's so much more than that. I really do feel that he's like one of the best literary characters, like of an era. Like and okay, he's in within a kind of like superhero kind of world, but he's much more than that as well, because he's such a three-dimensional character. The fact that he's a working class blue collar guy that has all these troubles, a troubled past. You know, the issue where, you know, he has a twin in the womb and he strangles his twin with the cord. I mean, like, this stuff is dark and twisted and wonderful, you know, and his humor. So do you know what? I couldn't. I'd have to go away and think about how to put that into like one paragraph. I would kind of say that like Constantine is the guy that like when you're watching the superhero movie that you wish was in it.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Because he's like you. He's like me.
The voice of the audience, yes.
Well, yeah, but also kind of, you know, I love the way that he interacts in some of the comics when he calls all the superheroes like the guys in tights.
Yeah,
Do you know
okay,
what I mean?
yes.
On the animated movies, like, shut up, Batsy. You know, like, and the way that he's like, he is us. And even though, like, okay, you asked, the first thing I asked myself, what are his powers? And I searched everywhere on the internet, looking and reading all the comics. I'm like, well, he doesn't have any powers. His power is his knowledge of the arcane. And like, that is human. It's like Batman doesn't have any powers, but he has, you know, his revenge drives him, right? And he has all these gadgets, and he's a detective. He has those skill set. Where John Constantine like loved magic, and he was an egotistical a-hole, and that got him into trouble. And then ever since then, he's been working his way. And synchronicity is one of his powers. And then if you look at the New 52, you know, or some of the stuff we do in Legends, you know, his fireballs and, you know, flashing eyes. But, you know, you look at the source of the character, and he's a normal guy who, like, studied magic so hard and then was bold enough to try and do something and messed it up, and a girl got dragged to hell and her arm was ripped off, and then he has this guilt and he goes into a psychiatric ward and he's crazy, and then, you know, actually that was his path. And, you know, as he gets older through the comics. Yeah, I think he was one of the only comic book characters to age in real time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's special.
So I think maybe like when I'm in my 60s or something, I'll come back on a crossover with a Zimmer frame and a cigarette and be like, hey guys, you know.
Well, I hope you're not using a walker at age 60. I feel like something has gone very wrong.
Oh, John Constantine would, yeah. No, he'd just do a spell so that he could float or something like that. No, he wouldn't.
So cool.
That's too prissy. He wouldn't do that. He'd take the Zimmer.
Yeah, you gotta get more gritty than that.
Yeah.
He said, I'm not good. Just a reminder, friends, if you want to come up at any time and ask
Yeah,
questions,
any
we're just chatting up here, so please at any time.
And I'd say that is a good question because I've not thought about that to kind of describe the character or what he is in the world in such a kind of compact way.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
for me, it's so kind of three-dimensional and multifaceted that it's hard to kind of just lay that out. But it's a good question. It's made me think about it now.
Yeah.
So maybe when I meet you next year, I'll have an answer.
It's all good. Take as much time as you need to write that. Because, like, man, if you spend that much time
You
with
get
a
an
character,
email from me like
Yeah.
6 months later.
I'm like,
you'd
oh
be
my God,
this
yes.
guy is crazy.
No, I would open my laptop and like put my glasses on and be like, okay, cool. That's sick. No, I love that. Hi, friends.
Hi.
Hey, Constantina.
Do you have any upcoming projects?
I'm actually looking at something at the moment, but I don't know if it's going to happen, so I can't say anything about it, but possibly.
Keep on the lookout.
I actually took a break. Like, after we finished Legends, it was like 20 years almost to the day that I'd been professionally in the industry.
Oh, wow.
And I'd done 6 years training before that. And I kind of felt like all of the ambitions you have when you're younger and all the drive that I had, it all changed. I want to kind of like have a little bit of moment for reflection, and I was in a great position to be able to do that. So I took, I said to my agent, like, unless it's an offer, I'm not going to be chasing things around, and I want to take a little bit of time. And then when I was kind of ready, that the writer's strike happened, then the actor's strike happened, and then, life happens as well. So now, like, I'm starting to look at things, and there's a couple of things that might happen, but we'll see.
Exciting. I'm proud of you for doing some self-care. That's good.
Like, the one thing is, as well, is you can get caught up in the one thing that you're doing, and I think that the most important thing for me is, like, to be a human being
Absolutely,
as well.
absolutely.
And I think as acting, you're like us all, right? Our parents get old, family matters. I'm always chasing around the world, going to all these different places, and I'm like, I haven't seen my grandma. I haven't seen.
Yeah.
I need to take a little bit of time here and just kind of like recalibrate, and that's been really, really cool. But then what that does is that feeds the fire and the hunger to want to do it again and tell stories, you know. And so that's where I'm at the moment. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I've heard that before. Like, you have to experience life to be able to tell the stories of life. That's what I've heard before.
Life experience,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Thanks so much wherever you went. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Hi, Fred.
Hi. So you know how some actors, they get really into the character and then they start to take that character with them home? Like, you have to really get into the character to understand the mindset of that character. Were there any characters that were just so profound that you said, even after this is done, I'm going to keep this personality trait with me for the rest of my life because it's like that profound, that beneficial to being human?
I don't know. It's an interesting question. I think that, you learn so much from the characters that you play. Like, as I said, I wasn't educated through any kind of school system in a way. And my education has been the reading that I've done from all of the roles or the research that I've done, like especially doing Shakespeare. Like just reading, and then I was the guy when we didn't have the internet. I had a thesaurus and a dictionary, one in this pocket, one in this pocket, and I'd have to look up the words. And when I was in drama school, there were people from Oxford and Cambridge going like, well, I know what that is, and that's a simile, and that's a metaphor. I didn't even know what a metaphor was. So I had to look these things up. So my study time was like 5 times as much as them because I didn't have, those basic skills, but I learned because I wanted to understand what I was saying, and half the time I probably didn't, but I was on a journey to kind of understanding that, and I think that then with every character you learn something more, and I love the idea of like an actor being almost like an anthropologist of the soul or of a human being, like because you get to learn all different components from all these different characters. And I always felt as well like God, man, I want to see me, I'm boring, but this guy's really cool. Oh, if I could be like that, right? And then try to understand him. And I think that hopefully there's the good bits that come in and you take those on. Sure, there's the bad bits too, but I'm not like a method actor or anything. When I went to drama school, what they did is they said, what we do is we give you a toolbox. And with that toolbox, you can approach any project. and you use different tools for different projects, different styles of acting, different mediums. You know, that toolbox is there, and that's your training. And I thought that was great. So I've never been like, you know, okay, I have to become the character. But then I think if you play something long enough, you understand deeper and deeper the psychology of the role of the person that you're portraying. And then, you know, you could inadvertently take things on like that. But I don't, there was one moment actually, to answer your question like specifically, there was one moment when the pandemic happened, and I ended up back in Wales, and me and my brother, who hadn't lived together since we were 16, was stuck in a house together, just me and him, and I love my brother, but it was a little bit like, and I can remember like, and there was just that I wobbled a bit, like I'm sure like a lot of people did. And my friend, Jonjo O'Neill, who played Gary on Constantine, and we knew each other from the Royal Shakespeare Company, and he came on to do that role, which was great. But we were talking one time, and he said, like, do you know, and he's Northern Irish. He's like, do you know, sometimes I think you need to like channel your inner John Constantine here, because like you're fucking losing it, man. Like John wouldn't do this, would he? And there was a moment when I was like, oh, I think sometimes we all need a little bit of something from somewhere that we've played, or something we've watched, or something, you know. And I love that, and I was just like, yeah, actually, if I just think about that for a moment, like, that's gonna help me. And it doesn't mean that I am him, or I've become him, or any of those things. It just means that sometimes those things are useful, and sometimes they're not, you know, like, Jesus, you know, like, John likes to drink, man, and I'm from Wales, no. But, or smoke cigarettes. Like, yeah, don't smoke cigarettes, it's not good for you. But I think that the major thing is like, learning from every character that you've played. Learning the psychology of who they are as a human being, inadvertently you're learning more about yourself and humanity, you know? And I think that that's what I love about being an actor, is kind of discovering. I always just thought, like, I don't want to be one thing. It's just, I want to experience as many possible abilities in life, and acting is a way to do that. Now, you don't get to live the whole life as something, you can't do it all, but you can get a little taste of all these different ways of looking at things, perspectives, you know?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good, that was good. That was, yeah, yes, wisdom. Hi, friend.
Hello.
Hey.
Hopefully Oklahoma's treating you well. So,
It is.
No tornadoes yet.
So kind of going on to the other side, we haven't made it that far yet, but given your Shakespearean background, now the voice acting part, what part did you want to go into voice acting, or was it something to where certain companies like Ubisoft came up to you and said, hey, we want to introduce you to this character named Edward Kenway, and how did you kind of make that your own?
It's funny because, like, I've never had a voiceover agent. And, like, so with the Constantine stuff, it happened slightly differently. I've been very, very lucky. And I was born with something called a cowl on your face. It's actually funny because the guy who created John Constantine, Alan Moore, he has a poem about the cowl, because it's this whole thing. A cowl is when you're born with a little bit of the placenta on your face. I can't believe I'm saying this. But
Get
it's
into
funny,
it,
when
come
I came
on.
out, there was like a piece of skin on my face, and they thought that I was featureless, and then apparently
Oh
it's
my
very good
gosh.
luck. And in different cultures, it means various different things. Like sailors used to buy them and tie them to their belts because it meant you would never drown. Some people said that you were seers, and all there's the whole history of that. But okay, I just completely segued.
I was in it though. That's crazy.
But no, so but I never had a voiceover agent, and I've always loved doing voices and accents and things like that. And when for Edward Kenway, there was an audition for a pirate TV show, and I was like, I'm a pirate. No, you don't know. I'm the pirate. I am a pirate. You know, I'm from Wales. I'm a pirate. I didn't go to school. I'm like, I'm your guy. You know? And what's funny is, like, so they didn't tell me it was a video game for the first meeting. And I did the meeting, and they liked it. And then my agent called me and said, listen, okay, so they want to see you again, but look, you've got to know, this isn't a TV show. This is a video game, and it's called Assassin's Creed. And me and my friend Joseph Morgan have been playing Assassin's Creed 1 like years before. I was like, okay, that's great. And at the time, it's a funny thing because now everybody does everything as an actor, right? It was a time when movie stars didn't do television. Like, you didn't do like commercials or endorsements, you know, like, you didn't do like voices for video games in that way. They were voice actors, they were stage actors, it was all very different. And I was like, that's great, I'm totally up for that, you know? And so I went back in and I met for it again. And the character was originally from the north of England. So he had more of a constant, is like, all right, from the north. All right, my name's Edward Kenway. More like, all right, mate, how you doing? A little bit Constantine-y, like Constantine's a mix of various things, but he's more from the north. And then, so I booked the job, and I go over to Montreal, where they're doing all the motion capture, and the guy's like, oh, you sound different. I'm like, yeah, I'm an actor, you know, I do like different accents. And they're like, oh, your voice is great. Like, where are you from? So, well, I'm from a place called Swansea in Wales, which nobody knows about. And they're like, oh, cool. Is it a port? Is it on the sea? I was like, yeah. They're like, oh, we'll make him from there then. And I was like, oh my God. I just put my like hometown city on the map. Yes! Yeah! And they made Edward Kenway from Swansea. And it was just like, wow. Wow, it was amazing. And I love doing the motion capture. And I've done any since. I would love to do more. And with the voice stuff, because I play Constantine, they then said, hey, listen, do you want to do this? And then actually, I'd finished playing Constantine, and there's a whole story about that journey as well, but I'd finished playing Constantine, they say, come and do the voice, you know, the voice for City of Demons, I think it was Constantine, City of Demons, the movie. And I loved it, you know? But I've never had a voiceover agent. So a bunch of my friends have always been like, so who's your voiceover agent? I'm like, I've never had one. Like, well, I should probably get one. But the stuff that I've done in the voice work has been inadvertently come to me in a way. And sometimes that's the most wonderful thing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back, our tornado friend.
Hi. So I really love it whenever you play John Constantine. I was just wondering if his character actually came into our world, how would you react? Like if you guys met each other.
Well, he is in our world, isn't he? No, you know the story about Alan Moore meeting John Constantine in the pub. Mm-hmm. And I think it was one of the other writers or someone who said, like, there was one day I was sitting in a pub in the UK on a rainy day having a beer, and there was a guy who looked at me very strangely. I was like, that's John. I don't know if I've had an experience like that because I basically blocked it out. There was a moment when I got the job, I wanted to, before we started, okay, you do the pilot, right? Which basically you get the job, 2 weeks later you're shooting the pilot. Mm-hmm. So I had very little information. I was reading as much as I could. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, shit, there's 300 issues of just the Hellblazer. So I ain't gonna read that in like a week. So I did as much as I could. And David S. Goyer and Daniel Saron, the producers, gave me Dangerous Habits and was like, read this one. And then afterwards, we were waiting to see if the show got picked up by the network to go to series. And in the meantime, I was reading them. Mm-hmm. I was reading them as fast as I could, you know? And then all the way up to shooting, I was reading them, but I hadn't finished. I wanted to have finished them before I started, but that was just not humanly possible. So I was reading as I was going. And there was, and if I ever felt lost on set, I'd always have a comic and I could look at a panel and go like, oh, because they're so physical, like the panels, you know, like it could just give me the physicality of the character and I could just like, or I had a little black book that I carried around with me. And of all the comics, I would take the lines that I loved or the little phrases like, oh, bollocks, although that's common. But like, I'd take those and I'd put them into the book. Mm-hmm. And then I'd carry them around with me. And if there was a room to improvise, I would always try to drop something in from the comic, something that was kind of like, you know, true to that source, because that's what we were trying to do. And as we were going along, we were working like 14-hour days. I'd never done like been a lead role on a television show. I'd done lead roles in plays, but that's a very different ball game. And I'd never done it on a TV show. And it was 14 hours on camera. and then you drive yourself there and you drive yourself home. So I used to have to call my mum and dad, because they were in the UK, we were in Atlanta, and I'd call them to talk to me while I drove home, because I was like falling asleep. And during that time, when I went home or whenever I could, I was reading the comics. And some of those, if you guys have read them, some of them can get very dark. Wonderfully dark, and like, I think that in parenthesis, that's where the humor comes from for me with John. It's not slapstick, it's because something dark is going on. He's like, all right, man, have it. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, is dryness there. But I would be like reading these things before I went to bed, and I started to have like nightmares, you know, because you would. But if you, whatever you think about all day, you know, you start like, and I was like, okay, I have to like, you know, be a functionable actor to be able to do this. So I kind of like slowed that down a little bit. Read them in the morning, but you know, don't read them at night. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. I went on another tangent.
It was
It's
great.
all right. And also, so you're from Wales, correct?
Correct.
Is your family, so they're still over there and stuff?
They are, yeah.
Is your grandmother still with us, still alive?
Yes.
How old is she, if you mind?
One is 90 and one is 88.
I actually, my great grandmother, she actually was born in London, England, in a village, and sadly she passed away about
Sorry.
2 years ago. She died about 102, I believe.
Wow. Oh my
So
gosh.
I just wanted to know that because since you were talking about that, I'm like, I wonder if there is not hereditary or not, or it's just a culture thing.
I don't know.
Yeah,
One of
good
my
to know.
grandmothers still smokes cigarettes. She's in the
Whoa.
hospital going like, I want a cigarette. I'm like, no, don't smoke anymore.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Hey, one more time. Give it up for our friend Brianna. Let's
Yay.
go. All right, my friends. We are running a little bit short on time, so these will be our last two, and we're going to try and power through them if we can, all
I'll try
right?
and answer quickly and not
No,
go
you're
into
good. You're
tangents.
good. We literally got like a countdown timer right
do.
here. It's full disclosure, being so candid. So we
It's
got
like
you.
the TV show 24. Boop, 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 boop. Jack Bauer's in the room.
Go ahead, my friend.
Hi, I'm Matthew. I
Matthew.
just want to
Good
say, yeah, your voice is definitely who I hear when I read the comics for Constantine now. And I thought you just did a great job of imbuing his different sense of reality. I don't know if that's him being a mage or being from Britain, but I'm curious, when your tenure as Constantine ended on Legends of Tomorrow, how much input you had on the next character you ended up playing on the same show.
You know what? That was the most wonderful thing that happened, actually. When we found out kind of after the first few episodes of season 6 of Constantine that we couldn't use the character anymore. And then I spoke to the producers and they say, look, you know, we don't think this is fair because there's a multiverse thing that everyone has and we're willing to fight. And I was like, do you know what? Like, if this is the way it's going, this is the way it's going. You got to kind of like go with the flow, right? If he comes back, he'll come back. He kept on coming back for 10 years. You know, after 13 episodes of a television show, I ended up playing him for nearly 10 years on various different mediums. So I was kind of like, okay, if that's the way it's going, it's fine. My time on this show has ended. That's sad, but okay, I'll move on. And then they were like, you want to stay? I was like, what? Like, only on Legends of Tomorrow can you like stay and be another character. So okay, they were just like, yeah, just, you know, we'll figure something out. Like, okay, like we'll make something up. And so we went into the break of the show, our hiatus, and didn't really speak to anyone that much about it. Just kind of, I knew what he needed to be, like the complete opposite to John, physically, emotionally. He also needed to be a character that served the team. So it needed to serve the show. John is someone who's like, all right, mate, I know everything. Right? Take over that. You know, that's his energy. And having him on the show was a great thing when he came on. But I felt it needed someone who was like, who's this world? You know, it couldn't be someone who was too cool for school, you know, like, needed to be someone who was like really interested in the world. And so these various different things that we talked about, but we didn't really know. And then I grew a beard and grew my hair long. And then when I came back to Vancouver, it was during the pandemic, I was locked in my room for 2 weeks with no air conditioning, no windows, in the summer. And I was like, oh, I think I found the character. No. And I remember speaking to the guys, and they're like, okay, like, so he's going to be gay, and he's from 1925. And I was like, okay. So I'd created all these ideas of what I wanted him to be, and And the wonderful thing about all those producers on the show, they trusted you. They trusted the actors, and Phil Klemmer and Keto Shumzi, like they trusted me. You know, like they knew I was gonna do something and bring something, and there were certain things that they needed, like for the character to serve the other legends, and there was a moment when they said that this character's gonna be gay, I was like, okay, right, okay, obviously that fits the demographic of the show, what you need for the audience. I was like, oh, wait there, he's from 1925. Wow, what is that like, to be gay in 1925? And then, oh, he's deeply religious. Oh my God, who is this guy? This is it. Because I could feel this psychology kind of coming together of this guy who was oppressed by the times that he was in and by the religion that he had been brought up in. And I was just like, that is something. And there was this one moment, I love Dr. Gwyn. I fell in love with him. He happened. I don't know how he happened. He happened. And he happened through an organic process of the producers and me, a freedom and guidance and all of those things. And there was a moment when I was on set, and there's a scene with me and Jess, and she says, "Oh, Gwyn, it's okay for you to be who you are. You know, no one judges you." And Gwyn turns around and says, "It doesn't matter about me. It matters about God, what he thinks of me." And there was a moment where, like, I was breaking my heart as a person, and I could see Jess was. And after that, after we shot that scene, I was just like, wow, this is like really like real human stuff, you know? Like, it was wonderful. I loved Legends for that, because you could have a demon unicorn ripping off a nipple, and then you got this wonderful human stuff in the middle of it too. And and then the boom operator, the guy who operated the boom, who I'd known for like 4 seasons, was in tears, and he came over to me, he said, "That's me." He said that, like, my husband, who he's just married, he said, "We fought because I come from a deeply religious family, and we weren't allowed." And I was just like, and I fell in love with Gwyn even more, you know? And I just love that there's moments like that, and I think there was a trust between myself and the producers and the showrunners to kind of find something that would work within this. And there was no ego, you know? I didn't want to bring another John Constantine. John is John, and I love John. But with Gwyn, it was ours. You know, we created it. And it was a wonderful thing.
Thank you so much, friend.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, if it is possible, can we get through your question very fast? Is it possible?
Yeah, because we're over time. I always talk
Maybe,
too
maybe
much.
not. I was
Okay.
just going to ask if there were any like episodes or story arcs from within the time of the Arrowverse that just stood out as being particularly memorable to
Well,
you.
I love doing the crossover with Tom Ellis. When Mark Guggenheim came on set, and he was talking about the crossover, and I'd never done one, and he went, "Oh, read this scene." And I was like, bro. You know, I know Tom for years, you know? And when we got to do that, and we had such a blast, you know, we were like, we should do a Constantine versus Lucifer, like 6 episode journey, like Lucifer loses his powers, John's the only one who can get them back, they drive across America in a 2-seater sports car, they're shagging in the corner, they're smoking cigarettes. Like, we were like, you know.
Oh my God.
Yeah. We talked about it, yeah. It didn't happen, but.
Oh my gosh.
But it would have been great. And I think that, like, there's that on my show, A Feast of Friends, when I think I really got hold of the character when John has to sacrifice his best friend, and then the Saint of Last Resort, that 2-parter, and then the last one, episode 13, because I started to feel like it was getting dark and into the comics, you know. But there's so many moments on Legends I couldn't even say. Yeah. So many times that I piss myself laughing.
I'll say, continue the conversation at the table. When are you at your table next, my friend?
After this, I think. Well, after a little break. But yeah, I'll be back in about, we're back there in about 20 minutes.
All right, perfect. Well, everybody, please give
Thank
it
you, guys.
up.